What's up? How's your day going? Have you eaten? Drank any water? Went to the bathroom? Or have you just been scrolling? I get it. We all do it. But don't let it consume you. Right now, I kind of want to talk about something that comes up constantly for me. I don't like to consider myself a creator or a content creator or anything like that. I do this. This is my life. I've been creating or in front of the camera since I was like 12 or 13 because I want to. It's my choice, Everyone has the autonomy. And nowadays, it can feel like there's just so much. So I kind of want to dive into the impact of always being on. The culture that has indoctrinated us to be a hustler. And there's nothing wrong with hustling, But I think that life flows in phases and stages, and sometimes you gotta hustle. But all the time can be a bit much. What it's like to be always on. In my firsthand experience, there's burnout. That's like the worst possible case scenario is burnout, right? You do so much, and it's exciting, it's great, and you're using up all your energy to the point where you don't even notice that it's draining you. That's the danger, in my eyes, that you could be doing so good and not know that you're actually hurting yourself. That's the caveat to always being on, is that you could be succeeding, achieving everything that you're aspiring to do, become, all at the expense of maybe your mental health or your physical health or your relationships. It's a balance of what matters to you most. And I think that always being on can kind of cloud that vision. It can give you like tunnel vision. You're focused and you're in flow, but also knowing when enough is enough, when you've passed your limits. Because we want to extend our limits, yes, but we don't want to keep brushing past our limits, so much so that we burn out. We are the flame. We light the flame. But once it's blown out, relighting a candle that you just blew out, depending on the wick, it can be challenging. But after you let it sit for a while and then you relight it, it's a bit easier. Take that metaphor and apply it to you. Is there any part of your life where you feel like you're always on? Maybe you're always available to someone. Maybe you're stuck in the same routine. Too much of a good thing can turn into a bad thing, right? Too much. Overexposure, overconsumption. Knowing when enough is enough. Knowing when it's time to take a break from the screens. Knowing when your ears are exhausted from listening. It's about knowing your boundaries. And boundaries are quite important. There's a few things that they don't teach you in school. Quite a few things that somehow I wish they started to teach into curriculum, but to each his own. Boundaries being one of the biggest. When you're uncomfortable with something, being able to communicate that. Being able to take time for you, being able to speak up for yourself. Boundaries are important. And when you don't recognize that you need them, or what they might feel like, you can go on living a boundless life. And it's quite easy. Because then you punish yourself. As much self-love as you show yourself, as many times as you go get your nails done or buy yourself that new upgrade, self-love is setting boundaries and adhering to them. Because they're for you. Boundaries are they're like the red flags, right? When you don't have them, they pop up. But subconsciously, you ignore them. Not subconsciously, consciously, you ignore them. You ignore them because you don't see their worth. You don't find their value. Because maybe you just haven't had them. You don't know what healthy boundaries looks like. And that's okay. But that doesn't mean that what you know is what you'll experience for the rest of your life. Maybe it's time for a shift, a change in your flow, in how you do things. Oh my gosh, and I read somewhere. Or was it I'm trying to think where I found it. But someone said that the people who get upset at you for setting your boundaries are possibly the people who are capitalizing or taking advantage of the fact that you don't realize that you don't have any. That you are causing you internal damage. That people are profiting off of the downfall of you. And I know that sounds really drastic, right? Super drastic. Now, I don't mean just cut people off right now, but boundaries looks like saying, hey, actually, I'm super tired. I know I said I wanted to go, but it just doesn't feel good right now. I hope you can understand. Something like that, you know? Knowing that it still comes from a place of love, but respect for yourself. Because people can set firm boundaries and just say, no, never that. I'm never going to do that with you. Or, I'm down to try, but if it gets too much, I'm going to have to back out. And that's okay. It's about knowing yourself, and life is about learning yourself. Learning how to live and conduct yourself around others. Conduct and communicate with others. It's like we're here for the first time, and we're trying to figure out what we want, who we are. All of these things are trying to figure out ourselves. And our body, our mind, so smart, so intelligent, so intuitive. If we just listen to it more and trust it more, maybe life would feel a lot smoother. But that's another topic of discussion for later. Just knowing that setting boundaries, having limits, is not a bad thing. It might keep you happier for longer. Because when you don't have them, things are going good until they're not. And do you want to keep waiting until they're not? Or do you want to set checkpoints, gateways? How often do you check in with how you're feeling? With what's really going on? Your body will tell you when something's not right. When you feel a little way about this person, or your mom gets that feeling about your friend, and she's like, I don't know if I want you hanging out with them. They just give me that feeling. A mother's intuition, very strong. Just like yours. Just like yours. It's the trusting it that matters. When you feel like you're in the wrong direction or going the wrong way, and you keep walking and you say, oh, whatever, and then you realize you were right, it's that feeling. We're all learning ourselves day by day. And even when we think we finally cracked the code and we know ourselves, something shows us that, hey, there's still more learning, more growth to be done. And that's okay. But I don't want to see you crash and burn. I don't want to see you burn out. I want to see you thrive. I want to see you comfortable, comfortably uncomfortable, challenging yourself day by day, little by little, but in a healthy way. Not taking on too much on your plate. And then beating yourself up because you disappointed yourself, because you set your expectations too high. Because you're like, oh yeah, I could do these 10 things in one day. Realizing that there's only so many hours in the day. When you're going somewhere and you have to be somewhere by a certain time, and you map it out, you're like, yeah, if I leave right now, this will be good. Just like when you're going somewhere, you have to account for the traffic, if you need gas, if maybe you haven't eaten, if you gotta pee, if it's a long drive. There are so many things to take into account when you're going on a journey. You're living the journey. You have to take into account that, okay, you have limits. You can do 5 hours worth of work, but are you going to be hungry? Do you need a snack? Will you have to take a potty break? Things like that. When you know yourself, you're able to use your strengths and your weaknesses to your advantage. To your advantage. That means you've got all the infinity stones. You've got everything you need. So I want you to know that setting boundaries and adhering to them, completely normal. Checking in with how you feel, completely normal. Hustling, normal. But we all have stages and phases of our lives, and some seasons you might be in hustle, grind, full flow, just cranking everything out, step by step, day by day. And then in some seasons you're like, I don't really have as much drive or passion or motivation. And that's okay, because when you get back into that season of hustle and flow, listen, you're going to be crushing it because you needed that downtime to reset and channel and get back in to you and what you want to do. I hope that resonates some way, some shape, some form, but take with that what you will, and I'll talk to you soon.